a raccoon-proof trash can, a girl in flip-flops, a box of candy, and a copperhead snake. These were the elements of a great story a friend of mine relayed to me the other day. Stay with us as I share the rest of the story and how it can impact your life.
The verse of the day is Joshua 1:9. I have not commanded you, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
Welcome to Cell Life Church Live. Thank you for joining us as we share an inspirational message that is relevant to life today.
Thanks for joining us today for Cell Life Church Live.
Yeah.
Each week we try to bring you something encouraging that you can share with others, either in your small group or home church, with your family or neighbors, or on your favorite social media network.
Facebook.
Yes. And speaking of social media networks, such as Facebook, would you help us by liking and sharing these webcasts with your friends?
Yes, please.
Help us to share the loving message of Jesus Christ all around the world.
Yeah, and I know we share them a lot and send them out and we boost them and all that other good stuff. But it really helps when others not only like them, but also share them. So it helps get the message of Christ around the world.
Yes.
And it is getting around the world.
Yes.
Speaking of Facebook, yet again, I was on Facebook the other day and I came across a post that just made me say, wow. Also made my skin crawl a little bit. It was posted by a friend of mine who I met on a Youth for Christ mission trip many years ago. The opening line of the post drew me right in like a John Grisham novel. Here's what she posted. Last weekend, I gained a new understanding of the phrase, if it was a snake, it would have bit you. You know, and that right there just, I was like, whoa. So I kept reading. She wrote, I stood outside a cabin in the woods attempting to open a raccoon-proof trash can. When I was kindly informed I was on the wrong side, I started to move only to drop a box of candy at my feet. As I bent over to pick it up, I discovered a snake. A not-so-small copperhead had been inches from my flip-flop covered foot the whole time I was trying to get in the trash can. Now my candy rested right beside him. He didn't move immediately, but eventually slowly uncurled and slid away under the porch.
Yikes.
Yikes is right. She continues, copperheads don't typically just lay there while you almost dance on them and then shower them with a box of hot tamales. They just don't. The fact that I should have been bitten has stayed with me for over a week now. I am amazed and baffled and thankful. Very thankful. That thankfulness made me wonder how often things don't happen, and we have no idea. We are pretty good about thanking God for the things that happen or come our way, but I think now I will be throwing out a few thank yous for whatever things didn't happen that never even made it on my radar. Things that really could have ended badly.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that is
That's pretty scary.
That is a wow. You know, and copperheads are not a friendly snake. And I grew up with copperheads also in the Northeast. You know, in fact, they are quite aggressive and they will chase people. I've seen it happen. Yeah, I saw a copperhead cross a street going after a guy and bit him in the calf.
Ooh.
I mean, it's just, they are not a nice snake. And this one is just laying there, watching her the whole time. You know, when I chatted with her about it, she said it was still very real and impacting her days later. I personally had a similar thing happen to me on the mission trip with the same person 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Yikes. I had been walking back and forth through some tall grass in shorts and sandals, cleaning out an area so mowers could go in and cut the tall grass. When the mower went in, it hit a big rattlesnake that I had been walking back and forth over top of for about 15 minutes. Yeah, that was kind of creepy. I believed then, just as much as I believe now in this case, these snakes' mouths had been shut by the Lord.
How often do things not happen to us? How much does the Lord protect us when we aren't even aware?
Yeah.
And how often do we thank the Lord for his angels' intervention in our lives? This is really nothing new. We just don't talk about it very often.
Yeah.
There are passages of scripture in the Bible that talk about these same sorts of things. You look at Daniel in the lion's den,
Good
for
story.
example, and you can read that passage for yourself in Daniel chapter 6. We'll paraphrase it for you. Daniel, he was a Hebrew in exile and was serving King Darius as one of his governors.
Right.
And some of the leaders, they didn't like Daniel. They either didn't like him just not to like him, or the favor that he was receiving from the king. So they plotted against him.
Yeah, they sure did.
And so they got the king to issue a decree that for the next 30 days, no one could pray to anyone other than the king himself. Daniel stayed true to God and went to his room and prayed 3 times a day openly to God, facing the city of Jerusalem.
Yeah, he didn't even hide.
He didn't hide, no. The other leaders grabbed him and brought him to the king, and the king was forced to punish him by putting him in the lion's den and sealing up the entrance. The king was very distraught that night. As he was so distraught, he actually didn't even
Well, he
eat.
liked Daniel.
Yes.
He loved Daniel.
Yes. As soon as dawn broke, the king, he rushed into the lion's den. And let's read what happens in Daniel chapter 6, verses 20 through 23.
Yeah, it says this. When he came near the den, he called to Daniel in an anguished voice. Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions? Verse 21, Daniel answered, May the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, your majesty. The king was overjoyed and gave orders to lift Daniel out of the den. And when Daniel was lifted from the den, no wound was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. Wow.
Amen.
Amen.
And King Darius knew who Daniel served.
Absolutely.
And knew that God had the power to deliver him.
What an amazing testimony.
Yes.
I mean, that's an amazing testimony.
God protected Daniel.
Yes.
The lions' mouths had been shut by the angel of the Lord.
Yeah.
And there was no doubt an incredible peace in Daniel because he knew whom he served and that he was blameless.
Yeah.
He knew the Lord would send his angels to protect him.
Right. Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah, they sure did.
That's not the only story in the Bible like this where God protects his people.
No, in fact, and there's many of them. But the Apostle Paul was actually bitten by a venomous snake. And we read that in Acts chapter 28, verses 1 through 10. And it goes like this. Once safely on shore, we found out that the island was called Malta. This is after a shipwreck that Paul was in. The islanders showed us unusual kindness. They built a fire and welcomed us all because it was raining and cold. Paul gathered a pile of brushwood, and as he put it on the fire, a viper, driven out by the heat, fastened itself onto his hand.
Ow.
I know, yeah. When the islanders saw the snake hanging from his hand, they said to each other, This man must be a murderer, for though he escaped from the sea, the goddess Justice has not allowed him to live. But Paul shook the snake off into the fire and suffered no ill effects. The people expected him to swell up or suddenly fall dead. But after waiting a long time and seeing nothing unusual happen to him, they changed their minds and said he was a god. There was an estate nearby that belonged to Publius, the chief official of the island. He welcomed us to his home and showed us generous hospitality for 3 days. His father was sick in bed, suffering from fever and dysentery. Paul went in to see him and, after prayer, placed his hands on him and healed him. When this had happened, the rest of the sick on the island came and were cured. They honored us in many ways, and when we were ready to sail, they furnished us with the supplies we needed. What a great passage.
You know, obviously the Apostle Paul was not a god.
No.
And I'm sure he did not allow them to call him a god or treat him in such a way.
Right.
But the point is, even though he was bitten, he was not poisoned, and he continued to minister.
Yeah.
In fact, he had even more credibility to minister to people after they had witnessed this miracle.
Yeah. And, I like how my friend summed up her post, and I'm sure Paul, kind of goes along this same thing too. She said she would be saying some thank yous to the Lord for the things that don't happen to her that could have.
Yeah.
Friends, how many of us need that reminder? I needed that reminder as I was reading this post. How many times have you realized that you missed a major car wreck because you couldn't find your keys and left the house 5 minutes late? How many of you are glad that you were not in the middle of a catastrophe because you got up and left a place early or felt the urge to sit somewhere else?
Amen.
These things happen all the time. And I am convinced that the Lord is dispatching his angels to protect his children using any means necessary.
Yes. Sometimes it means slowing you down.
Yeah.
Sometimes it means diverting you completely.
Yep.
Other times it means a miraculous deliverance of a dangerous situation.
That's my favorite one.
Yes. But other times it means giving you peace and strength so you can withstand the situation and then share the love of Christ with others because of it.
Yeah.
Whatever the outcome, make sure to thank the Lord for protecting you.
Yeah. I know that as I look back on my teenage years, there's really no logical reason that I should have survived them. None. There are foolish situations that I put myself in that, frankly, I should not be here today to tell you about them. But I am. Obviously.
And we're thankful for that.
Yes, well, and obviously the Lord had plans for me. You see, even before I knew the Lord, he was sending his angels to protect me. And he's protecting you too.
Yes.
So tonight, as you reflect on the day and thank the Lord for all of the blessings in your life, thank him for the things that didn't happen also, like the snake that might have bit you, but you didn't even see it there.
Right.
Remember those things.
That means being mindful.
Being mindful.
And being aware.
Exactly.
We just want to thank you for joining us today. We hope that this has been encouraging and that you learned something.
Yeah.
We invite you to share this with your friends and your neighbors.
Please.
And if you have something like this that has happened to you, we would really like to hear about it. And all of the ways to contact us are in the closing credits. You'll see in just a moment.
Yeah, or you could just put it in the comments down below the video too.
Absolutely.
That would work.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes.
And until next week, be encouraged in Jesus' name.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining Cell Life Church Live. We hope you've been encouraged. If this message touched you in some special way and you would like to contact us, you may do so on our Facebook page, website, this YouTube channel, or email. We enjoy hearing how these messages impact your life. Would you consider supporting Cell Life Church financially? Contributions can be made online and are tax deductible in the United States. Details for giving can be found on our website at www.celllifechurch.tv.